Hello, class. I just want to go over a little old business and some new business that's going to help you, I believe, tremendously in some soon to come assignments. So, the old business, let's take a look at the assignment. Where is it? Your assignment for 3 2 was a little bit confusing, and I made some comments in everyone's functioning code section of the rubric when I graded assignment 3 2. So, just to make sure that everybody knows what I'm talking about, this is it. In the assignment, in the requirements document, it said plainly in the narrative, in the overview narrative, the program should take an integer input from the user and then output the corresponding course code associated with the integer typed in by the user, which should mean, if you type in 6, you're going to get IT 258 or something like that. Instead of just getting a return, your your choice was 6. However, if you go down here in the same document, same requirements specification, it says once fixed, the program output should look like this. And it says enter your choice. The user entered 5. You return your choice is 5. Well, most everyone did exactly what I would have done, and you made your code look like this. Perfectly acceptable. That's if a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is what I would look at, regardless of what the narrative said. When I get down here and it says once fixed, the program output should look like this. That's what I would do, and that's fine. And on top of all of that, you really had not been given any instructions yet in this course to prepare you to do what the narrative suggested you should do. And there was nothing in the assignment to give you those instructions. So everybody did a great job who submitted. And by the way, if you got a message from me saying you didn't submit everything you needed and you missed a few points because of that, just send me the stuff that you missed and I'll regrade it for you. I'm on your side. I want everybody to come out of this with a very good grade. So just send me your stuff. So that's what I want. That's what prompted this video. Is those conflicting instructions. But beyond that, I want to show you some stuff that's going to help you, I believe, in some assignments that are coming up soon. So let's take a look. This is assignment 3 2 as is. I debugged it, of course. So this is what you did. So you type in a 4, and you're going to get a 4. So let's go ahead and look at a way that we could deliver something as suggested in the narrative paragraph, where you don't return a 4, you return IT 170 or whatever the corresponding string was. Now, the first thing I did, and this is the part that's going to help you in some upcoming assignments. By the way, I'm on the VDI, so this is kind of slow to respond. So I created a course class, and you're going to be doing that, if not this week, soon. So this should help you quite a bit. Pay attention to this for sure. So we have a course class. It has some member variables, And your member variables should always be private. And I believe they are private by default, but it's a good idea to, in fact, it's a best practice to go ahead and explicitly annotate whether a variable is public or private. So these are private. We have an integer ID, a string name, integer for credits, and a Boolean for is registered. So that's those are the member variables. Now I have some constructors here. Now notice I have a, let's talk a bit about constructors. If you have a, if you define a class and you don't explicitly define any constructors, then it's going to always have a default constructor. The compiler is going to give it one when you build, and it's going to be something like this. It's not going to take any arguments, and it's going to probably not even do anything like this inside. It's just going to return an instance of your class, an object of your class. Now, you may want to go ahead and code something like this, even if you're not going to define any parameterized constructors. You may still want to define your own default constructor so that you can set your member variables to something. You don't want to put any real data in there, because nobody, if somebody just uses the default constructor with no parameters, then you expect to get back just an empty object of the class, and then you would want to define the properties yourself. Properties and member variables are, I'm going to probably use those interchangeably here. They're synonymous in this case. So here we have, now the thing is, if you do declare, define rather, any constructors at all, parameterized constructors or otherwise, in your class, then the compiler is not going to provide a default constructor. So if you define, as we have here, some parameterized constructors, we got one here that takes 3 parameters, 3 arguments, and one that takes 1 argument and only sets the name, then you have to go ahead and explicitly code your own default constructor if you choose to. Now, you may not want somebody to be able to declare, to get an instance, an object of your class without setting some of the properties when they ask for it. So that'll be up to you. But in this case, I did. So we have 3 constructors here. And we have some public-facing properties. Now, when I said that properties and member variables were synonymous, that's functionally true, but technically the property, the public-facing property, is an accessor or a mutator that you define yourself, and that's the way you let people interact with those private member variables. You don't want to make those public. It's not a best practice to make those public and let people just change them through the object without going through an accessor or a mutator. One reason for that is cybersecurity. if when you say you have this there's a name, public string name. Well, you don't want people to, typically you're going to be wired up to a database with your application. So you don't want people to be able to put in SQL injection, to put in a string to set the name of the property that contains some structured query language that's going to return them some data from your database that they shouldn't have. So what you would do then in your set, you would put some code in here to validate the string that they pass in. So you would just check it to make sure it's clean. It doesn't have any SQL or anything like that in it, and maybe that it's a plausible name for a course, that sort of thing. It's not too long, not too short. Follows, you may want to use a regular expression, for example, if your course names follow a certain pattern. So you can check that pattern here. And the same thing with the get. That's the accessor. The set is also called a mutator because you're changing the value of the property. The get is an accessor. It simply gives you access to the value of the property. But not everybody may have the same privileges in your application, the same user privileges, and so this is where you would check the user's role. You're probably going to have when somebody logs in, even if it's single sign-on, you're going to know who they are, and they're probably going to be assigned to one or more roles, security roles, and from admin down to just standard user. And so not everybody's going to be able to see the same data. Not everybody's going to have access to the same data. And so here is where you would check to see if the person has access or not. And if they don't, then you just wouldn't return anything. So that's sort of a brief overview of accessors and mutators, member variables, properties, public-facing properties. Another thing I would mention is that naming conventions, best practice is your private member variables are going to start with a lowercase letter, and their corresponding public-facing property is going to start with an uppercase variable, a letter. So that's a best practice certainly in C#. It's a standard. And then finally, we're going to be putting a toString. I'm not sure we may be using it in what I'm going to show you, but definitely that's going to be a requirement when you produce your course class, either this week or next. And so it's an override because every class, the base class is going to have a toString, and it's just going to return, by default, it's going to return the type of object. So it would probably return the name of your class or something. But here we're going to override it, and we're going to have it return the name of the course. So that's your course class. Now, the other thing I added, and this is beyond what you're required to do in this course, but I want to show you this because it's a way to mock up. As I said before, typically certainly in a application of this sort, where you're returning course information, you're going to be hooked up to a database, and you're going to, when the program starts up, you're going to go and get those courses out of the database, and you're going to display them and let people pick from them. Well, we're not going to be wired up to a database just yet, but a good way to mock that up is to use JSON, JavaScript object notation. And so we have a file out here, course info JSON, and it's a very specific way that you have to put these, see these square brackets that puts all of this into an array, I believe, and then everything in these comma separated, this comma separated set of items and curly braces. These are objects, and they're going to be interpreted as objects. And I'm going to show you in just a minute how to wire all this up to your application. We're going to build a list of courses using these this course.info.json file. Now, one other thing I need to show you here, in the properties, when you add something like that, you see this copy to output directory, copy always. By default, if you add a course info JSON, for example, yourself, by default it's going to be do not copy. Well, you don't want to leave it like that, or else at runtime it's not going to be available, because it's going to build your code and put it out into a debug folder and for people to run it, and that course info.json won't be there. So you want to change that to copy always. And same thing, any new class you add, go in and check that. Make sure that it says copy always, or at least copy when it changes. But I would just, for now, just to be sure everything's working, make it copy always. You can finesse that a bit later on. But definitely don't leave it as do not copy. So let's get started then, changing our code to take advantage of all this stuff. But I do need to show you one more thing with regard to JSON, since we're going to be using that. Now you need to go up here to Project and manage NuGet packages, because we do need to bring in a NuGet package to handle the JSON. Now let's look. Now I've already installed it here, so it's not going to be a Newtonsoft JSON. But if you don't have it, if you don't find it, and you probably won't, because I had to install it myself, both on the VDI here and on my home machine. So go to installed, and you'll, if you don't see it, then go here to browse and type in JSON, and here it is at the top. You would just select it and install it. So none of what I'm going to show you will work with regard to the JSON until you do that. Okay, let's get started now. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a using for Newtonsoft JSON. Then I'm going to add some variables up here. I need a couple of lists. I need a of type course, and remember we just made a course class, and I'm going to make it nullable with the question mark. Since that is not nullable, I'm going to initialize it to a new list of courses. Now notice how I was able to just tab through that. The IntelliSense knew what I was going to do. Okay, now down in our run, just a reminder that we're mocking up what in the real world implementation would be accessing a database. May be missing a using up here. No, let's see. System collections, text. had a misplaced opening paren. So that's it. By the way, I'm going to provide you this program.cs file. I'm probably going to leave it to you and I'm going to provide the course info.json. However, I am going to leave it as a task for you, based on what you've seen here, to create the course class, because that is one of your upcoming assignments. Okay, now we just need to write available courses. Okay, I don't know if you noticed, I right-clicked, went to Quick Actions and Refactorings, and asked it to go ahead and implement to stub out Write Available Courses. So now let's go ahead and implement that. And all we're gonna do in here is for each, we're going to iterate through available courses and write it out. For each and it's telling, oh wait, what is this? It's telling us this available courses may be null here, so let's see what the potential fixes are. Let's just do this. If if this builds, then we should be able to at least see our available courses from the JSON input. Well, I don't know if it built or not, so let's kill that. My apologies for using the VDI. I'm working on a MacBook, and I have a Windows machine with Visual Studio, but it's easier to make a video on the Mac, and so I just open up the VDI and use that here. So let's see what's going on. Clean. Build. Okay, according to this, the build worked, so let's see what we got. Okay, so it looks like I left my string in place, but this should be a list of our stuff from JSON, so let's see. Now let's get rid of this write prompt here. We don't need to display this string anymore. So let's just get rid of that. Okay, so here we have it. This is our list of courses and the IDs that came in from the JSON input, and we used those to make a list of course objects. And note, you see here, what produced this output here was we spun through the list of available courses, and we got the ID and the name property out of each course object. Now, in terms of scalability here, let's say that, one way that may have been suggested to do this was with a switch statement. That's okay if your goal is to learn how to do switch statements. That's fine. But if your goal were in reality to produce an application that offered people a list of courses to pick from, you would never want to do that, because if someone, courses are likely to change every term. You're going to have new courses coming on, old ones dropping off. courses renamed, that sort of thing. Well, if you were to do this with a switch statement and you had all those course names hard coded into your application code in a switch statement, then you're going to have to go in and modify your application code every time your data changes. And you never want to do that. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that, but just to be clear, you don't want to do that. So what we've done here, though, see, we put it in this JSON, and as I said, in reality, you'd be getting this from a database. So you would just have another part of the application that let you go in and update your database, and then when somebody ran this part of the application that displays the courses and lets them pick, it would have the fresh data automatically. You'd never have to go in and touch that code, not for that purpose anyway. So here, let's go ahead and add another course. And remember your comma. So we're going to give that one an ID of 8. We're going to call it IT 430. Okay, now let's run our code again. And by the way, you wouldn't even in this mock-up, you wouldn't necessarily have to open up even Visual Studio. Here it is, IT 430, it's showing here. You wouldn't even have to open up Visual Studio. You could just open up your JSON file in Notepad or something and add, or, make any modifications you wanted, save it, and then when your application loads those courses, it's going to pick up the fresh information. So there's no code to change, because technically this is not code. This is it's JavaScript object notation. It's just a file with some strings, pairings in it. But it's not going to be compiled code or anything like that. So that's the thing about scalability. Now let's see, what else do we need to do? Now we need to wire it up so that when they enter an integer value that corresponds to one of these courses, then you're going to be able to find that and return it. So how do we do that? Okay, we're going to do that inside read choice. Now right here, right now we're just reading it from the console as an integer and returning it. That's it. So what we're going to add to this is okay, worst case, if they didn't find it, if we didn't find it from their input, nothing, if their input doesn't match up to a course ID, we're just going to return a new course. And by the way, we have to change now, since read choice is going to return a course object and not an integer. So now we're going to be returning a course. Now we still want to read in their selection as an integer. That doesn't change because the course ID is an integer. check that. So if the list of available courses is not null, then for each course in the available courses, if we're just going to return the that's only going to match these IDs are unique. Anytime you're dealing with a database and you've got an ID representing a row of data, then that ID has to be unique. So we know that we can just return the first one that matches. Now, if you come out of this without returning here, then you're just going to return a new course. So let's see what we have now. Wait, we may not be quite ready. Let's see. So we have read choice. Choice equal read choice. Now choice up here I've defined as a integer, but I believe we have a member variable now for choice. Now write choice is still expecting an integer, so we're going to change that so that it takes a choice object. Wait, not choice, course. A course object. It's been a long day. Okay. And then here, now here we are going to be using the toString override in course. And so if what happens is if you attempt to use this object without calling the toString method and you try to plug it in somewhere where it's expecting a string, then it's going to implicitly call the toString method for you. Let's see if I'm telling the truth here in a minute, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. So up here, right after write available courses, we're going to say while, because we're going to sort of keep them from just entering an invalid choice and then being booted out of the program. And by the way, choice starts out as new course, and then recall also that in read choice, if it's not a valid choice, then it's going to return a new course object. So in either of those cases, the value of the ID is going to be 0 because in our default constructor, which is what new course is going to call, we're setting the ID to 0. And then when we come down here, when we check the ID, and we're going to be invoking the get, and it's going to return this ID, which is going to be 0. So we can be sure that until they enter a valid ID that connects with something in our list of courses, that is going to remain 0. So while choice ID is 0, we're going to write the prompt. And we're going to read choice. And then we're going to check if choice is not equal to 0. We're going to add it to my courses. That way we don't keep adding empty courses to my courses. And then finally, after we add it, we're going to write choice, which is going to spin through the My Courses list and write it out. Okay, now I've apparently, so we have to fix that. For each course in My Courses, and this gives you room to grow on later if you get a requirement to, and you will be getting a requirement to allow people to select up to 3 courses. Then this is a good way to do it. It's one way. Now notice in my course class I went ahead and gave you is registered Boolean property in here, and also you might note that in all of my constructors, when you return a new course object, you're always going to want to set is registered to false. Now we're not using is registered right now, but you will be asked to do that in a week or two. You'll be asked to add that to your course class. So I just want to go ahead and show you how to do that. Now I'm not showing you yet how to use it, but basically when that time comes, instead of adding let's change this to course. When that time comes, instead of adding in read choice, instead of adding the course that it found that matched up with your ID, instead of adding it to another list of available courses, you could just set that property in the course. And then down here, you would spin through available courses, and if course is registered as true, then you would display that. Same type of thing. Personally, I like this way better, but it's also, I think the point of the upcoming lesson, having you set that property and use it, is just to teach you how to do that, mechanically how to do that. So either one's a good option. So let's see what we got here. Okay, let's enter a choice. Your choice is 270. So that appears to work. I think I won't need to show you anything else for today. So as I said, when I make the announcement, when I release this video and an announcement, it'll contain also it'll contain this program CS file and the course, the course info JSON. I'm probably not going to give you the course object. I might give you a stubbed out. No, I think I'll just leave because you can rewatch this video and see that course object, how I did that, the course class rather. And so I don't want to take away too much from your learning experience. But I do think it's important for you to see a few things like JSON and link, and so we didn't use link here, but I think I used it last week in something extra I showed you. I think it's important for you to see all of that, and if you're comfortable going ahead and working with it, that's great. If you're not, of course, that's fine too, but that way you've got it, you've seen it, and it won't be a stranger when the time comes you need to use it. So well, thank you very much, and I hope everyone, by the way, is if you're submitting your work, you're doing great. So just if like I said, if you get a message from me and some feedback that says you didn't submit everything, well, just go ahead and submit it after the fact, and I'll go back and regrade your assignment with the new stuff. And you're certainly not going to lose points in a case like that. So, I'm here to work with you and here to see you succeed. And I want everybody to finish this course with a lot of extra knowledge and a high grade. Well, thank you, and I'll see you next week.